Okay, great. So this is so great. We have some questions. We have some inspiration that we want to give you because this is the first Friday of Lent, which I'm always very inspired the first Friday of Lent because I'm like, we're going to stations. We're doing this. I've done my commitments.
We start with a lot of energy.
I've done my commitments for 3 days. I can do this.
All right, so we do want to spend some time just chatting with you and leave time for any questions. We've gotten some people who send in some questions at the end. So feel free to chat those in. We'll look at those as we get toward the end of some reflections and thoughts for you to start us off. But Lent is here. Ready or not, it is here. And we really spent time a couple years ago thinking about how Lent needs to be different for a married couple.
Yes.
Right? But we call it Cana 90 is the name of our program. And you might be saying, wait a second, why are they calling it Cana 90? Oh, aren't we supposed to be in Lent? Isn't this, the gospel for Sunday about Jesus going out into the desert for 40 days? Isn't that
wait a minute, how do we make the connection between desert for 40 days and marriage? Wait a second, it's not what you think.
That is not the connection we were looking for. But we really want to go deeper into what it means to be a married couple through Lent. And thinking of the wedding of Cana, thinking about the challenges that are naturally a part of family life, we designed Cana 90, and we want to just encourage you in your own Lent, the commitments you're making, the ways you're approaching Lent, to think about it in light of your marriage and think about your family. So
I was doing a little bit of research and I found this one quote that I think it really kind of sums it up, and how a married and especially a parent, how our Lent needs to be different. This is from St. Alphonsus Liguori, who, if you've read anything by St. Alphonsus Liguori,
rock star.
He's like a hardcore. He's hardcore.
We use his Stations of the Cross because they're just so deep and powerful.
Absolutely. Do you know what he said? He said, were fathers or mothers to lead a life of piety and continual prayer and receive Holy Communion every day, they would be damned if they neglected the care of their children.
Wow.
Mic drop, St. Alphonsus Liguori. Yes. It's like our Lent as married people, as parents, our Lent has to look different.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And it's not even not enough to just do the prayers. That's not what God is asking of us. Yes, we need to pray because we need grace to be a parent. But our neglect of our children, no.
It's got to be front and center for us, right? So that's where we want to take time this Lent to really invest more deeply in our own marriage. But Cana, so Jesus.
Why Cana?
Yeah, so it's like Jesus was he began his public ministry at a wedding, and I think it's really significant because it's wrapped in this bigger story. All of salvation history has actually been wrapped in marriage and family. And sometimes we don't always appreciate this, but from the very beginning, we had Adam and Eve, the first marriage, the first wedding, if you will. That was in a garden, right? That began. But then all throughout the Old Testament, you have references to marriage, to wedding. You have it both in God wanting to espouse the Israelites, to espouse his people, to be their bride, or for them to be the bride and for him to be the bridegroom. You have the story of Hosea, a beautiful story there, but you also have the Song of Songs, that God is like this lover pursuing us. Right. And there's all these prophecies that talk to and speak about marriage, the marriage between the people and God. And that covenants came through those marriages. And then you lead up to the beginning of unfolding of salvation for us, our redemption, the plan that God had at the wedding of Cana. It was really significant. And then you go all the way forward throughout Jesus' ministry, right? And then
the end of time.
The very, very end of time. The last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, talks about the wedding supper of the Lamb, right? So this is our whole life. It begins in marriage and continues on. So we're pointing forward to the day that we are going to enter into the heavenly wedding banquet.
So if you think about it, when Mary was at the wedding at Cana, she was a woman of the scriptures. She knew how God had been relating to his people throughout all of the Old Testament. And now here is her son, Christ, who is here to create the new covenant. And she's looking around at the wedding and she's like, Jesus, this is perfect. Like right now, you need to do this. This is how God speaks to his people. Reveal yourself, reveal your divinity at this wedding. So I think that that is so beautiful. And if you have any thoughts about, wait a minute, how is this explained? How does God love his people? How does a wedding reflect that? Our most beloved saint, one of the really patron of our ministry, right? St. John Paul the Great, in so much that he wrote about marriage and family life. He explains the importance of marriage and covenant in this way. He says, in this entire world, there is not a more perfect, complete image of God, unity, and community. No other human reality corresponds more to that divine mystery of the covenant between a man and a woman and the covenant between God and his people. And then he explains further, the covenant between spouses is integrated into God's covenant with man. Authentic married love is caught up into divine love. We need to remember that throughout our marriage. Our marriage is reflecting. Actually, at our wedding, the priest looked at us and he said, thank you. And we were like, what? I actually recently rewatched our wedding video, and he said, thank you. Thank you for imaging for us how much God loves us. When we look at how much you love each other as a very newly married couple.
We had no idea what we were doing, right?
We didn't know what we were doing. But as a newly married couple, he's like, when we see the love that you have for each other, that is an image of how much God loves us. We have to remember that.
And this is a powerful reason for us to say your marriage matters. Your family matters to God and to the world. And for us in our program, we wanted to start our first week beginning at the very beginning with Adam and Eve, the first couple. And really take some time. And if you're with us and you've purchased the book, which we'll be shipping these out.
Product placement.
Or if you're on the daily emails, you get daily reflections on this for free. That really will kind of dive deeper each day into some reflections on marriage from Adam and Eve. Because first, this was
the first covenant.
This is the first covenant that God made was with a married couple, right? And in that, he really opens up how this was good, how marriage was so good. This was part of his original plan, and there was an original unity between man and woman, right? And then you also have the simple fact that man and woman are complementary, not the same, not equal, right? But there's a beauty in this. And we have this great little quote here from a biblical scholar. The woman was made out of a rib from the side of Adam, not made from his head to rule over him, nor out of his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected by him, near his heart to be loved by him. And when we think about marriage and that this idea, we can draw so much from the simple beauty of the story of Adam and Eve and what God, through the inspired word of God, is trying to teach us about our own marriage. And this is the beginning of our journey together through Lent, starting with that foundation. And
we have to realize then, well, what happened to that original unity? What happened to that original complementarity? Sin, right?
Yeah.
The fall. The fall messed it all up. Now what do we have? Now we have the battle of the sexes, right? Oh, men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
now we're both from Eden.
Right, exactly. Or then you have women being told, oh, if you want to get ahead in business, you need to be like a man. Right. Yeah, in the boardroom, if you want to get ahead in business, you need to be like a man. Or you have men being told, oh, you need to be more like a woman. When you're parenting, you need to act like a woman. You can't act, being like a man is bad. Don't do that. Be like a woman. That's not complementarity. And that is all the result of the fall. This is why we need the grace of God. We need the grace of God through our sacrament, through our prayer, because prayer is important, through our prayer to receive that grace, to recover that original unity, through grace and through forgiveness. Through when we rupture our relationship, asking for forgiveness, for making that repair, for making that happen. Those are the things that we are really challenging you to think about this Lent. Right. How am I doing that? How am I working to recover that original unity with my spouse?
And that's simply what we're looking at for all of us this Lent, and saying we've made some commitments. How are those commitments helping me in my marriage? how are they helping me in my first role? We have a first obligation, right? As married couples to our marriage. And so what do those commitments look like so that we can be more invested? This is our path to heaven. God, I can tell you this, if you're married, your number one priority is your spouse. We began, if you missed the beginning, St. Alphonsus Liguori, that quote, that you could do all the holy hours, you could do a daily mass, and if you neglect your spouse or your children, you could be damned to hell. Right? So, but
it's a little bit of a challenge.
But all of our Lenten commitments of prayer, of fasting, and of mercy, as we say, ought to be leading us to a deeper sense of how our path, how our vocation is going to be fully lived out. Right? So we're going to be doing this every Friday in Lent. It's one of our Lenten commitments. But our
hopefully we'll be able to get on here. We'll remember.
That's right. But
that's our biggest challenge.
But we're going to do this every Friday in Lent, and we'll have time to just have some conversations to talk about what are some of the commitments that we've all made, as well as some questions or challenges of living this out. But we really believe that this is a time for us to really make a renewed commitment about our first and primary vocation of marriage. Yes. And that how can we use those habits that we are going to use during these next 40 days to deepen our commitment, to deepen the romance, deepen the unity, deepen the ability to forgive.
Who knew that depening romance was a Lenten commitment? You know,
it
can happen. It can happen. That's right. Think outside the box, people. Let's go. You know.
All right. So anything else?
No, really just that we want to encourage people. So we have our Lenten program, Cana 90, which is a free program. You can sign up for on our website. You get daily emails that have a little scripture, a little reflection to help you focus in on your primary vocation, your path to holiness as a wife, as a mother, as a husband, as a father. And we want to encourage that. And then we have our printed book that is also for sale. If you want to get that, great. If you don't want to get it, less work for us. It's not a problem.
No problem. All right, so we have some questions here. Okay, so Jeff and Jenny asked, trying to balance and keep track of all the Lenten prayer and fasting commitments that everyone is doing. Each child, each spouse, the things that we're doing as a family. I also don't know how to encourage the kids to keep up what they've decided to do without nagging them. Good question. Not nagging is a good objective. But ultimately, those commitments are really between them and God. So how do we...
what have we done?
So first thing, in Cana 90, we've created a little victory tracking.
Actually.
And so what we did is create a little sheet so that each individual can make their own.
We actually went and printed this sheet out because it's a PDF too, like to anyone who joins Cana 90. And we printed it out for all of our kids. And we had a family meeting and we had them all write down.
And so we do this so that there is accountability, but there's a level of respect.
Right.
And we want to be able to raise the bar for our kids. Now, again, we got little guys that are toddlers. I don't think they're making these kind of commitments, right? But when we're talking about, anyone who's had their first communion, right? They should be able to be making...
Kids under the age of reason are pretty much sinless. So if they would like to do something as a habit, great.
As part of the family.
But you're the biggest sinner in the home if you have kids under 7, just so you know. you need the fasting commitments more than they do.
So we go from simply taking our own inventory of our lives. And again, as for Cana 90, what we encourage you to do is first individually do it, so then bring it together. So that as a spouse, you can discern, is this right? Is this in line with what's going to serve us and our family?
So just a quick example of that, not to derail your thought, but if like a spouse comes back and says, you know what, I'm really convicted, I need to do a holy hour every day. And I'm a wife and I'm at home with 4 kids under the age of 6. And I'm like, I don't think you need to do a holy hour every, unless it's in the middle of the night, you can do that. But I really think you need to be home here helping me with the kids. Maybe go to holy hour for 15 minutes and then come home and take the 4 kids for 45 minutes so I can have some time to
different kinds of holy hour. Or maybe
it's different. That's the
take
discernment.
A sacrifice of saying, hey, I want us each to have time to go and pray.
That's right.
And so I'm going to watch the kids so that you can go out and have that time. Or, but again, thinking that we bring that to each other for discernment, we also ask our kids to do that. So we sat down, we bring it as we do a family meeting on Sunday that we just went through, hey, what are our commitments? Actually, we did it on Ash Wednesday, now that I say that.
We did it on Ash Wednesday, and I just, side note,
or Tuesday before.
I was really blessed by our
some of the kids.
Some of our teens, some of the things they said were really beautiful.
And so then what we do for accountability is we have at our family meetings on Sunday, they bring their sheet. And we don't check it. We're not grading them, but we're asking, how's it going?
How did it go? Yeah.
And because we want to create a culture that is oriented towards virtue and growth and also accountability to each other. And then we even call out each other, hey, I really saw you doing this. You made that commitment and I really want to honor you for that. And I think that's important for kids to hear that. I think that answers the first question.
So I think that having the sheets, I really do think that as far as being accountable, I think writing things down is very helpful. So I think that having those sheets, if you want to get them from us, you're more than welcome to do so. Or maybe you have something else. And I think that as far as like keeping them accountable, the best thing is your own attitude. You know, like you said, like that, this is between them and God. Yes, ultimately it is between them and God. But I think that your attitude of like, hey, yeah, is that still working for you? Oh, I see you only marked down your sheet, you did that one time. Is that still working for you? Do you think that you should change that? And really giving that freedom. I think that's the key to helping kids in the relationship with Christ, is really giving them freedom. But then at the same time being like, is that working for you? Do you think you can challenge yourself? Maybe you could do this, and give them maybe some ideas of things that you've done. So I think that that's also a good idea. So, okay, next question. And this isn't necessarily about Lent, but I think that that's okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So how do you continue to spend time with mostly single friends once you have a baby? Mm-hmm. Go for it. I've had a baby before.
So I think that those single friends really need you. I think they do. I think that you may think, oh, they're out partying or whatever, they have it all together, or they're living in such a different life. You know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. Every woman is called to be a mother.
That's right.
And every man is called to be a father. Not biologically, necessarily, though most of us are called to that, but to be a spiritual mother and father. And your witness has being with your single friends when you have that little baby, I think is probably really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's showing those single women, this is what you're heading towards. This is the gift of self that you should be moving towards, even as a single woman. How can you give yourself away? I mean, for them to think about, I'm not saying you should ask these questions at all, but it challenges them when they see you giving yourself away, when they see you laying down your life, when they see you loving your husband, when they see you loving your child. It's a whole new stage of life. And I think it can be hugely encouraging to them. And I think it is sad. I think it is sad when maybe single people feel like, I don't have any friends because all my friends are married and gone away, but they still need that encouragement. You know, they still need that from you. They still need that love, you know, and they need that witness of love. So I think that the more that you can do that and keep in touch with them, but of course you may be sleep deprived, you know, your schedules are different, all of that. But I think that God is always calling us to love more. God is always calling us to love more. And remember what we said at the beginning of this video. What did we say? That you as the married couple are that witness of God's love for humanity, right? And as a mother, you are a witness of God's love for his people as a parent. We don't want to deprive our single friends of seeing that, you know, at all. So anyway.
And then maybe the last question here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to chat them.
How can we send out the accountability sheet?
Everybody who signed up for Canaan 90 gets it automatically. Okay. It's just a simple PDF, right? And it's just fasting, prayer, and mercy, and then little check marks that we just say Sunday to Saturday. You know, how are you doing? Check, check, check.
Messyfamilyproject.org. You can go on there, and I think Canaan 90 is probably on the slider front and center. You can go sign up. Download the accountability sheet right there.
And then any discernment prayers that you recommend. And the first thought that came to mind, although it's not a discernment prayer, I think this is an important part of discernment.
What kind of discernment?
So the big question here is, what kind of discernment are we talking about?
A lot of discernment that we need in our lives. Are we talking about
what commitments we're making for Lent? Because we do actually talk about that. Are you talking about the... discernment about like a job or a move or a, you know,
big things.
We have a whole podcast. We spent about 45 minutes talking about discernment. What does God want? And we go through some clear steps. But I think at the end of the day, what the best place to begin a good discernment is surrender. And so I'm doing the surrender novena right now. I just started it during Lent, and it's about putting.
He hasn't told me what he's discerning with the surrender novena, so.
We'll find out. But you want to begin with almost a certain sense where I have confidence that God can answer my problem, my question, the situation, resolve whatever's going on in a powerful way. And so we want to be able to start with that deeper sense of surrender and a constant confidence in God's ability to answer.
How do you find the surrender novena? You just Google it.
Google it. Super simple.
The Surrender Novena.
Surrender Novena. It's a beautiful.
It's not on our website or anything like that.
No. But
I think that even as far as discernment, one trap, I should say, that a lot of times we get into is we think that God's will is like a binary option. It's A or B. It's God's will or it's not God's will. And if I choose the wrong one, it's like blue, no red.
Particularly as Catholics, we know morality, there are black and white issues. And sometimes we apply that to, now again, there is black and white issues when it comes to morality, right?
Yes.
But
so that's easy discernment, because black and white issues of morality are very easy to discern. But there's a lot of other things like job choices or where to move and all of those things. Unless you are moving to like a strip club, right? And there's that's a moral issue, right? Okay, easy discernment there. But if you have most of us aren't obviously making those kind of decisions. But if there's we can very, very quickly get trapped into thinking it's a yes, no. It's an A-B thing. And it's really not. It's really not. We have to recognize in that surrender, I think part of the surrender is recognizing, you know what? God loves you and he wants the best for you and he's going to be there for you no matter what. If we are always seeking his voice, if we are always seeking his face, then he is going to bless us. Usually when it's not a moral issue, God's like, look, if you move to Pennsylvania, you move to Ohio, I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to be there for you. And so I think that that's part of that surrender is just, I think it's the surrender of control, right? I think that that's really what God is asking us for, is to surrender control and recognizing that, you know what, whatever happens I just recently heard this, that like in your kitchen and one of your kids comes in and spills flour, or actually better yet, oil, vegetable oil. Not that this has ever happened to me. It has, but anyway, spills vegetable oil all over the floor. Now, did God will that to happen? Well, not directly, but he allowed that to happen. And so I have to look at that and say, okay, Lord, you know what am I going to learn? What can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? I can, take a breath, clean it up, not get mad at the 2-year-old. It's not like they did this out of spite. It's not like they did this on purpose, but recognizing that those kinds of things. So if you do say, move to a certain state, it doesn't work out, recognize it's not like, oh, this wasn't God's will. You made the wrong choice. That's why it's not working. No, sometimes God allows difficult things to happen to us because he wants to teach us. He wants us to rely more on his love and his grace. He wants to strengthen us. He wants to, sometimes hard things happen and we become stronger through them. So all of those things, it's just remember that discernment, it's not a binary option all the time.
But I can give you some quick things that if it isn't in line with the church, easy discernment, like we said.
Moral issues are easy, yeah.
Your marriage is first and foremost. Does it breathe life into your marriage? Does it help you in your primary vocation? Because that's already a decision made, right? Does it help you in your role as a mom and a dad? Does it detract and take away from your family or not? And then you two have been given the grace to lead your family. So if there is unity, that's usually how God's grace flows, right? And so just as a quick stopgap, as you're looking at this, to eliminate those and then look deeper. Again, we go through this in a whole podcast, but I do have two people that asked to join live. And I've not done that before, but David and Heidi, did you actually want to join live and ask your question? So if so,
I think you can just comment your question. You just do a comment, right?
Yeah. Do you want to try it or no?
Sure. Go ahead.
I don't know how that works, but we'll just.
David's a good. Yeah. So maybe you have a question that we can.
Yeah, if you have a question, that's great. If not, no problem.
Hey, can you see me?
Yeah, David.
Hey, guys.
No,
Heidi,
I did not want to do this. No.
Did she say she didn't want to do that?
I've never done Instagram before.
You and me both, Heidi. Did you have a question while you're on here?
No, I just thought I would catch this. I just dropped my daughter off at the movies, and I thought, oh, I'll check in and see what you guys are doing.
Well, I'm glad you're here. We can watch you commuting. This is awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. How do I let go?
I literally have no idea. But so, David, did you mean to be here?
Yeah, we're new to Instagram too, and so I just pushed the button that said, come in. But hey, thumbs up. I hit it when you were talking about St. Alphonsus Liguori. We're doing Father Calloway's 33-day consecration to St. Joseph, and he's all over.
Awesome.
That's one of our Lenten things, but we started early so we can finish it up on March 19th, the feast day of St. Joseph. So.
Actually, I did that last year, the 33 days of consecration, St. Joseph. Excellent recommendation. It was very, very good.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, we got, here's PJ. But we got, there's so much stuff we're learning in there, too. I mean, it's like, hey, I've been studying this stuff for so many years, and there's so much in that consecration that's like, wow, really cool.
I absolutely agree. No, that is an excellent recommendation. I know that book was selling like hotcakes last year. Yep. And let it keep going, Lord. Like, there's so many great lessons in there. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks so much, David. Awesome.
All right. Good to see you. God bless you guys. Thanks for coming. We will be doing this every Friday. At 5:30. So we'd love to have you. We will post the recordings later for all those in Cana 90 as well as on our website.
And you can bring any of your questions. Honestly, I would love to do parenting questions, marriage questions, anything. Anything you guys want to talk about, we are willing. Our reflection will be kind of short, and then we'll move on from there.
All right. Well, God bless you and your Lent, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye. Enjoy.